Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Guidolato. I'm a member of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. This is a part of our meet your Democratic candidate in the seventh and 10th Congressional District. Today, we have with us is former Delegate Elizabeth Guzmán. She represented the 31st House of Delegates in Virginia. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi, Anthony. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. So introductions are crucial. Can you tell us more, a bit about yourself, your background, and what inspired you to pursue a career in politics?
Sure. Where should I start? Okay. So I came to this country with $300 in my pocket and a little girl, and at the beginning, like many Americans right now have to juggle three jobs in order to make ends meet to make meet and with the support of my family, I was able to go to college, raise my children while working full time. And today I have two master's degrees, one in public administration and a second one in social work. I work for over 2 decades in local government. I work in early childhood education, school administration, and the last 10 years in mental health services. The state legislature is only a part-time job. So if you want to afford to live in Northern Virginia, you need to have a full-time job. So the last 10 years, I work in the city of Alexandria as a chief administrative officer for the Department of Community and Human Services. I oversee a budget of $30 million and lead a workforce of 200 essential staff who provide services for individuals who are facing mental and intellectual disabilities, dealing with substance use disorders, seniors facing food insecurity. I got involved in politics back in 2006 when people who look like my family and I were demonized by a leader in the County Board of Supervisors where I live in Prince William County. So I started mobilizing my community, and I did not only lead the effort to repeal the 287G agreement, but also to unseat every Republican who was in office in the County Board of Supervisors and help flip the County Board of Supervisors and have a supermajority in the school board. In 2016, my son Carlos, who was born here in Virginia, told me that we needed to go back to Peru because we speak Spanish in my household. So that day, I realized that I needed to run for office, not only to protect the American dream that drove me to this country, but also to protect our American freedoms. And with that, I flipped a district red to blue after 26 years by double digits. And I was able to get reelected 3 times, even in the worst times for Democrats, which was 2021. And, in Richmond, I introduced over 100 pieces of legislation, including landmark legislation, as collective bargaining for public sector employees, paid sick leave for workers, and also more services to make Virginia a better state for military families and veterans. And with that, I've been awarded for the job that I've done in Richmond. I've been named legislative leader by the League of Conservation Voters, legislative champion by the Virginia Education Association, American Federation of Teachers, named an effective legislator who get things done, even in the majority and the minority by the Washington Post and Richmond Times. And that's how I got involved. And now there is this opportunity to run for Congress, but we'll talk about that later. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. No, thank you for sharing your story with us. An interesting background. Immigration is a complex issue with significant implications for communities, especially in the seventh district. How do you plan to advocate for a comprehensive immigration reform that balances border security and a compassion for respect for immigrants, for immigration communities?
Well, I would start with I have done in Virginia. Virginia is now a place where diversity is embraced and not disrespected. And I was able to provide, when it was not a popular issue, driver's license for undocumented immigrants and in-state tuition for asylees, refugees, and dreamers. And I'm bringing the same fight to the federal government. I believe right now it's chaotic what is happening in the House of Representatives, and what Republicans just have shown us that they don't know how to lead. And I believe that there is low-hanging fruit that it's available right now that we should execute immediately. The bipartisan bill that came out of the Senate, that came to the House of Representatives, that included the pathway to citizenship to dreamers, farm workers, and TPS holders. The reality is, I'm an immigrant myself, so I understand the system really well. That we talk about that it's necessary to provide them, because the country right now is withholding Social Security, Medicare, and FICA taxes that we all pay without not knowing what is going to be their future. So I think that's definitely the low-hanging fruit. We need to show, Americans that is the right thing to do, that it works. And then the next step is to provide, an immigration reform to those 14 million immigrants who live here under the shadow and that are paying taxes. But when I talk about it, I think the biggest fear that Republicans have used very well, it's bringing criminals to this country. And what I want to do for immigration reform, I want to bring it to the next level. And that includes partnering with those countries where these people are applying for citizenships, and ensure that we get their criminal records also from their home countries, so everybody has a peace of mind. The support and labor provided by immigrants is irreplaceable. And we have seen what is happening in Florida with those hateful laws, anti-immigrants. They don't have the workforce to sustain. It was named a tourist place, but now they don't have the workforce to have the service in hotels and construction, and it's going. So it has shown that when you are a state that do not promote diversity, that do not fight for everybody who resides in that district, your state is not going to do well. So that's what we wanted to do. We need action. Unfortunately, President Trump is talking about the wall, but he never mentioned how he defunded the Department of Homeland Security during his tenure. So we need to bring that, to the table, and understand that the chaotic times that we're living right now at the border was promoted by President Trump in an effort to, launch his candidacy for president. But President Biden has shown you good faith that we have to work, and he provided a bill. So now we get him the vote. We need to get him the votes in the House of Representatives and get a majority so we can get it forward.
I agree. As an immigrant, something needs to happen. Unions play a crucial role in protecting workers' rights and advocating for fair wages and working conditions. My question to you is, how do you plan to support organized labor and ensure that workers in the 7th District have a voice in the workplace?
Thank you. And I would like to go back also to what Virginia was when I was elected in 2017. And we were able as Democrats in leadership to maintain Virginia's #1 for business, but we were dead last for working families. So we were able to change that. And now Virginia is number 23 in the nation, and there is still more work to do. In the state legislature, we were able to increase the minimum wage, which is still at the federal government, $7.25. We were able to pass collective bargaining that provided public sector employees a voice at the table during the decision-making process. We were able to pass paid sick leave for home healthcare workers during the times of the pandemic. So I am proud to be endorsed by the Virginia AFL-CIO and 8 more unions and more to come to join this fight, because we are bringing the voices of workers to Congress. President Biden, and I would like to give credit where it's worth, it has been his intention to pass collective bargaining, for federal workers, but unfortunately by not having the votes. So I am coming, to Washington, D.C. to make my case that how unions make a workplace better, as a second-generation union member myself, who have dedicated my life to the public sector and always work in the public sector, and just share with other representatives what we can do to bring this country to a different level. when we talk about, and I think that is also tied to trade policy, because as we're working with other countries, we are so behind in what it has to do with workers' rights. And yes, in my vision is to continue to be good for business, but we have to do better for workers. And I'm sure that there are many small business and business owners out there that they know that by empower their employees has been the key to succeed. When you take care of your employees take care of you. And while other third world countries are talking about unions, they are not talking about how to unionize or provide collective bargaining rights. They are talking about how the executive power plays a role and provide the support so they can establish democracy when they are electing a union that is going to represent the real values of the workers. So other countries have a lot to learn from us, but we need to learn from them as well, as they have shown how unions are working for their countries.
Okay, thank you for sharing with that. We know you're a strong advocate for unions. Education is vital for future success of our communities. How do you plan on improving public education in the Sabbath, including increasing funding for schools and supporting our teachers?
Well, I've been named legislative champion by the Virginia Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers. And it is because I benefited from the system by raising 4 children in the public schools. So I felt that it was extremely important, to make it better. When I have a child that is 33 years old, but then my youngest child is 15 years old. So I have seen many resources that we have lost throughout the years. But I think President Biden talked during the State of the Union about providing universal pre-K, and that is extremely necessary. We also need to invest more money in early Head Start and Head Start, because the statistics have shown that the earlier the child goes to school, is going to be more likely to graduate from high school and go to college. So education investments and starts early on, and we definitely need to provide more support for special decisions that are made from the federal government are, for example, the IDEAS program. The IDEAS program was created by President Obama back in 2012. Mental health is not the same from 2012. It's 12 years later. And while people is more comfortable about talking mental health and it's not a stigma, we have not kept up the resources that the federal government provides to states and localities for special education children. So we definitely need to innovate and update to be able to provide the right resources so those children could thrive. Then the public education funding is not working. The Congressional District 7 includes 11 localities. It goes from central eastern Prince William County. If you go 95 south, goes all the way to Fredericksburg, and then to King George, to the Piedmont area, Greene County, Orange, Culpeper, Madison County. So there's a lot of public education disparities when you look at the district. While there are localities that are closer to Northern Virginia, where they get almost 60% of their funding from the state, there are other localities that only receive 20%. So my campaign is about helping every child who resides in Congressional District 7 to thrive. And that means working with the state legislature and the governor to provide a new formula that it's going to benefit every child regardless of their zip code. Because we need more investments in infrastructure, we need to pay teachers more, we need to open more early Head Start and Head Start classrooms in schools. The only way that we can accomplish that is by working with the state government and work with them and share the disparities that are happening, in this Commonwealth and across the country. And also, when we're talking about Title I schools and the funding that comes from the federal government, all of those funding are also based on tests, SOL tests that are mandated by the federal government. I think when President Bush created that No Child Left Behind for public education, worked then, it doesn't work now. So we have to do better. Children shouldn't be studying to a test nowadays. We should be teaching them how to gain critical thinking and analytical skills, because those are the skills that are going to help them succeed as they are going to face the real world and go to college and join a workforce. We need to also be clear that, not a college is not for everybody at that moment, and sometimes it comes to some students early on, but to some it comes later. So while they are in the schools, we need to equip them with the skills so they can succeed. And the district is 35% rural, and I'm happy that as I represented Fauquier County the last 6 years, we created career tracks for students to get into the agricultural world. So there is a path for them if they want to stay and handle the farms from their parents, so they could continue their career and stay working in their farms. And then with that, of course, college affordability is a huge impact. Your credit score, what the amount of money that your family gets shouldn't decide whether you go to college or not. So in Virginia, we have successfully implemented, while I was a delegate, the G3 program. So any family who makes less than $100,000, they could go to college, 2 years of college for free, if you decided to become a teacher, be on the healthcare or IT. And that's something that we need to bring to the federal government as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing for your thoughts of education. Transportation is a key issue for the residents living in 7th, especially coming off the 95 corridor, especially regarding congestion in public transit. What are your plans to improve transportation infrastructure and accessibility in the 7th?
Well, I would say that as the state delegate, I laid the foundation to conduct a feasibility study to extend the metro. Back then it was to Quantico, but now my intention is to do a new study expanding it to Fredericksburg. The areas of Prince William County, Stafford, Fredericksburg, and Spotsylvania are growing at a fast pace. And the reason is because the first-time home buyers is where they could afford, and they go over there to live. It's not affordable as it used to be, but at least people are still moving over there. So we need to do investments the federal government could just play an important role to be the first stakeholder to make that a reality. I would like to give kudos to Congressman Jennifer Wexton, that during her tenure in Congress, during the last 6 years, she was able to bring the dollars necessary to open four stops for the Silver Line. And that's something that we have to do, bring also to Congressional District 7. If we calculate the population, there's actually more people residing in the most suburban areas and urban areas in Congressional District 7. But I think also we need to invest more money on the VRE so it's more reliable. We talk all the time about bringing people from our areas, Congressional District 7, to Washington, D.C., Alexandria, and Arlington, because people are commuting for a high-paying job. So we need, VRE needs to be more reliable. We need to invest more money so there are more runs and people could ride it. Because, for example, if I were to take the VRE, but then I have to come earlier because I have a doctor's appointment at 1 p.m., I will be stuck. There's no way to come back. And even if you're slack, you're always relying on others too. So people want to have control of their time, mainly those who are parents, because you need to be back home to pick up your children, or take them to activities. So it has to run more often. It has to be reliable. And we should be talking about bringing people from Washington, D.C. and other areas to come to our areas. And we have great places to share. So people could come also and shop and promote Potomac's Mill or the Fredericksburg Mall in Central Park, so people could come without driving. But then I would be remiss if I don't talk about the necessity of local transportation, and not only intra-local, but interlocalities. So many people would enjoy the fact not to drive from where I'm at in Prince William County to Fredericksburg, for example. So boosting more money into the PRTC, the Prince William Rappahannock Transportation Commission, so they can have more runs and more services for the region is extremely important. And for the other localities that are not part of the PRTC, they are also in desperate need of job creation. So we need to invest trying to bring businesses to bring to every locality so people could finally work locally. But the only way that we are going to be attractive is if we have a robust transportation system. And that has to be our number one priority.
As a resident in seventh, I agree with you on the transportation challenges we have. Lastly, there aren't any questions for you, but I will end it on this. Finally, as early voting is actually open now and ends on June 15th. Finally, as voters consider their choices, what would you like to know about you?
Well, I would like to tell voters that I am the only candidate who has proven that could win swing districts. I did it not only once, but 3 times. And for those who campaigned for Abigail Spanberger, and this goes for Anthony as well, because he did a lot of work to get elected, it's a competitive seat. So we need a candidate who knows how to win competitive races. I would humbly say as well that I'm the candidate who has the most legislative experience, as I served in Richmond for 3 terms. The other candidates will say that they have worked in Richmond, they have worked in local governments, but they are only serving on their 2nd term as they just won their re-elections this past November. I am the only candidate who has been able to earn the support of local and national organizations. Every opportunity that it's out there where we apply for an endorsement, we get it. And that means that we have the message that resonates with voters in Congressional District 7. The district is 35% rural, and I'm the only candidate who has represented rural areas before. And as I represented for Fauquier County. And the candidate needs to campaign not only in urban and suburban areas, but also in rural areas. We need every Democrat out. And I would say that I personally knocked on doors in Orange County already. And I was the first Democratic candidate that knocked on people's doors. And it creates excitement. And that's the enthusiasm and energy that we need to get every vote out. And finally, I will say that as the only mother with the school-age children on this race, public education is extremely personal to me. And I bring also with me my professional experience as I work in the public sector in Virginia for over 20 years.
Thank you, Elizabeth Guzmán, for taking time out of your busy campaigning schedule to meet with us on a Friday afternoon. People go vote now. Early voting is live until June 15th. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining our segment with Meet Our Congressional Candidates in the 7th and 10th. Elizabeth Guzmán, I'm cheering for you. Good luck on your campaign.
Thank you. Thank you, DemBiz.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care. Bye.